Thank you all for joining us. I'm Brian Morrissey. I'm the president and editor-in-chief of Digiday. We are in the process of adapting our business on the fly. And so thank you for joining us, because this is the first ever of a new series we're doing. And this really sprang from conversations that I've been having over the last 4 weeks now with other publishers, because all of us have to adapt our businesses and adapt them in different ways. And so I thought about these conversations and said, why don't we actually adapt to have a show that focuses on how specific publishers are adapting specific areas to this new normal. And I do believe this is, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, a new normal. And so to start things off, Kate Lewis, the chief content officer at Hearst Magazines, was nice enough to be not only our guest, but our guinea pig as we adapt to this new normal. Kate, thank you for joining us.
I'm so here to be a guinea pig. I'm happy to do it.
So how about, just putting out a magazine? Let's talk, very basic, a lot of Hearst magazines have a lot of photos in them of
meetings. Yeah, they do.
And usually humans are taking the photos of other humans.
Yes.
Let's talk about the photo shoots. That's like an obvious.
That's been a real point of pride for us. I think we've shot probably 7 covers. So this is a great example that we're showing now. So this is Miley Carpenter, who is the editor-in-chief of Food Network magazine, and she is holed up in Connecticut with her sister, who is the art director of HGTV magazine, and her brother-in-law.
I gotta be honest with you, Kate, they're not distancing.
They're not distancing, but they're all family. So there are 2 families that are holed up together, which I feel some envy about, as I'm stuck only with my own. And so her brother-in-law, who you see here, is a photographer. So Miley suddenly became a food stylist. They've been shooting these pictures, as you can see, on their deck. And actually, if you flip to the next slide, you'll see then they're able to transmit them to the office. And you can see these are the images they were just shooting on the deck in layout. I'm giving you a little sneak preview of the July-August issue here. So don't read the words. It's not real yet. It's not real. But I wanted you to see just how quickly we've been able to adapt. So a lot of it is stuff that we owe to our partners, roommates, colleagues, the people that are sort of holed up with us have actually become a sort of part of the army. There is a video shooter for Delish whose partner, I think it's her boyfriend, has become the hands for all of the hands and pans videos. So we're capitalizing on the creative talent that actually surrounds a lot of our employees. And that's sort of how we've managed to make things like cover shoots happen too. So we've done a couple of cover shoots. They are being shot by, photographers who are friends of the celebrities. And they're 2-man shoot.
Okay. So
it's a whole new world.
I think what's interesting is you want people to take the initiative, right?
Yeah.
And because there's no playbook. I'm sure you could have gone and be like, well, we had this playbook in place.
I'm not going to lie to you, Brian.
But there is no playbook. And sometimes people within organizations be like, okay, what's the playbook? And you got to say, you're the playbook, because you have to adapt, and we're going to find things out by you taking the initiative. And then we can, I would guess, spread that to other titles, right?
We have a sort of 4 points of light mantra that we use at Hearst Edit. The first one is to grow audience. The second one is to generate buzz. Third one is to collaborate, which has been, I think, incredibly useful for our org for a long time, because we do share information. But the last one is experiment to learn. And I think that has proven, the fact that for the past 6-7 years, we've really had experiment to learn as a point of light for us, and something that we aspire to. And so that's in the DNA of the creative team has proven out really well here. Everything from, routing proofs on Slack for the pages of the magazine to getting your sister to appear in a, cooking show with you. It's just a whole different kind of ingenuity that has been fundamentally ingrained in the Hearst Edit team and is now really being pushed to its limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good example here. So this is a live video every day. I think at 1 o'clock, Joe Saltz, who's the editorial director of Delish, goes on a segment for a recipe from Delish with her family. That's her son Teddy there in the picture, but she's a cast of, she's got 3 kids who rotate in and out. And actually this one is incredibly exciting. This show
they were not part of Delish content before.
They were, I mean, you know, I'm sure they've been taste testers for years, but they know they're now cameramen and crew and the whole thing. And these guys, actually, this one is particularly interesting because this show has gained a lot of popularity. It's been, I think this is like probably its 3rd week that she's been doing it. And actually Hershey's bought into this show. They wanted to be part of the, I believe these are s'mores waffles.
Can we actually play this?
I think you can hear it, yeah.
I think it would be good to play it.
Oh, I don't hear anything. Do you, Brian?
I don't hear anything. But
well, this is Joe and Teddy just telling them that they're going to make s'mores waffles with Hershey's. And
I am so excited about today's recipe because it is, I mean, I say this about every recipe, but this I really mean it. It's one of our favorites. We're making Eggo s'mores and we're partnering with our friends at Hershey. We're so excited.
Look at Teddy. He knows what to do.
Teddy is well trained.
It is super simple. Also involves.
That gives you the gist of what it's like, you know, and I think it's about a half an hour show.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. And so tell me about video. Let's stick on video for a little bit because, you know, I think we talked about photo shoots, but video is its own challenge, particularly, you know, remotely.
Yes. So a big part of our video output is celebrity. And I think we at first were very concerned that, you know, everyone's a little bit in hiding and how are we going to shoot? You know, we often have celebrities come in and we'll shoot multiple videos with them in a day. They come into the studio, we do it on cover shoots, etc. How are we going to get that kind of access to them in this environment? And it's turned out that celebrities themselves are phenomenal shooters. So we almost have so much footage coming in, Brian, that we can't edit it fast enough. So we have a number of successful YouTube franchises. For example, we have Song Association on Elle. We've got Jim and Fridge or Train Like on Men's Health. There are all these kind of, you know, series that we've been putting out for a long time. So there's sort of a prescribed language about them. There's a format to them already. And we've reached out to celebs and said, hey, shoot this yourself. There's, you know, the technology of how to shoot on your phone right now is pretty amazing. They usually have someone, probably their sister, roommate, partner, whoever is in their house with them is doing this for us. And we're getting tons of footage. And then our editors who are all set up at home are able to produce, and the graphics teams as well. So we've been really lucky with that. There's a lot of, you know, we own this brand Clever, which is a YouTube brand that's been shot in studio. We have a studio in Santa Monica. Obviously, those guys were sent home. They were sent home a little bit later than the New York team just because they commute by car, but eventually that got to be too sort of unnerving as well. And they have all set up home studios and are shooting there. So we've really been able to continue to produce tons of footage, and the editors are just cranking it out.
Yeah, I'm always interested with celebrity and how they are sort of self-isolating.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that they like pick out key people to their entourage and be like,
yes,
you're self-isolating.
Yeah, we're isolating together. Yeah, totally.
I can't confirm that. So that is just, I want to encourage everyone to use the Q&A because we want to make this as interactive as possible. Speaking of celebrity, let's take a look at Oprah. What is Oprah up to?
Well, Oprah, this clip that we have here, which I will show in a minute, was we did a live with Oprah on the O Magazine Instagram handle with Ariana Davis, who's the digital lead for that brand. And in it, Oprah admitted that she was making Stedman quarantine in the guest house because he'd just flown to see her. And this thing went viral. It was covered by everybody, People, USA Today, everybody covered it because Oprah, you'll see, she admits she's booted Stedman, so we can listen to it.
Okay, let's play this.
Stedman is at the guest house because you all know I had pneumonia late last year, and you can still hear the raspiness in my throat sometimes when I talk. And I had just gotten off of antibiotics last week because I had like a bronchial infection. And so Stedman was late to the party, understanding.
He's one of those.
One of those.
Yeah.
Stedman was one of those going, I don't see what everybody's getting so upset about. It's been all fear-based. This is fear-based leadership. That's what Stedman was saying.
That's why he's in the guest house.
And Stedman, and that's why Stedman's at the guest house.
You can pause it there if you want.
Pause it here. I wonder about this though, Kate, is like, because I think one of the great questions with this crisis is what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. What's a now thing and what'll snap back to way.
Well, you'll be happy to know Stedman's out of the guest house. He's been allowed back to the main house.
Okay, I'll
that didn't
no more
stick.
free Stedman, no more free Stedman.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
He's been allowed back.
What is going to stick when you try these things? They're more like, on the go, they're cheaper, let's be honest.
Yes.
What's going to snap back to the sort of high touch, expensive, and what's going to stay?
I think there'll be a hybrid, Brian, honestly. Like, I think that, the one thing that we haven't truly undertaken yet is a big, huge, fashion story for a brand like Bazaar or Elle. We haven't had to do that yet in isolation. And so, I imagine those productions are a calling card for us. And I imagine that we'll still put a lot of effort behind those kinds of shoots. I think that you'll see a real hybrid of video though, because I think there is, first of all, much of how YouTube is distributed much of how video is distributed digitally is YouTube-like in nature, and that it's, it doesn't need to look that polished. And so we will definitely have moments when we look for the opportunity to make these big, beautiful productions. But I think it has certainly opened our minds to the kind of quick and dirty version of things.
And I think what can't be underestimated is the consumer expectations are different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's why we're doing this show, to be totally honest.
Yes.
I turn on cable news and it looks like a Zoom, and I'm like, we can do that.
Yeah, no, I actually love it. I've been watching CBS this morning, big Gayle King fan, and I love the way they've managed to create this intimacy from their various living rooms. It's just like, it's absolutely charming, I think.
Yeah. So we'll see if it lasts. I mean, I don't think it's very clear, but I think some things will definitely stick, because one of the sort of mantras we have in addition to adapting is acceleration, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to accelerate a ton of trends, good and bad. But I think one of the trends that it's going to accelerate that we've already seen is this kind of quick and dirty, low production, but, authentic video, right?
I think the other thing we've seen, honestly, is that a lot of the things that we're producing, I mean, you saw that with a Food Network shoot, in this way actually looks incredibly high production, right? So there's been a sort of ingenuity about how to produce that maybe doesn't require the big studio rental and the light set and the this and the that, and that, we shot a cover for Esquire a couple weeks ago, and there were 2 people on set. Now it pays to be a handsome man, that makes it easier, but we shipped the clothes out there. We had the fashion director Nick Sullivan was on FaceTime with them, and kind of helping to curate the clothes, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think part of that too is what you said, the already evolving understanding of what does a cover need to be, what does a video need to be, right? Actually, the more creative you are these days, the more standout you are. So not following that the template of what's always been done for covers, what's always been done for celebrity video, but breaking it is something we've been working towards. And so now we get to do that, in a way that feels even more loose.
Exactly. So Michael Schmark, first of all, he says, I have a nice Zoom sweater. I agree with you, Michael. But he also asked a very pertinent question, which is Hearst seeing that rethinking its future workforce model now? Because, you've got this wonderful tower, and it's lovely. But are you rethinking the need for this tower?
Well, two things. The first thing is that I think, I'm actually on a committee at work, which is the future work. There are two challenges that face us. One is just the return to work, and like, how will we feel comfortable and safe going back to our offices and going out in the world, not just our offices, but dinner, all the things. And the second thing is like, what are we really returning to? Like, what is the future of work? And from an editorial point of view, and of course there are many, many, many different departments in Hearst Magazines. I'm just one of them, but there's ad ops, there's finance, there's HR, there's sales. So all those groups have their own set of needs. For editorial, certainly one of the things that we've thought about is that, actually more studio space would probably behoove us, because that is when congregation is truly required. It's truly required when you are, you need a kitchen and you need a food stylist and you need a photographer and you need a videographer all in the same room. So could you imagine we've already converted so much of the tower into studio space, and we have the Sheffield around the corner. Could you imagine expending more real estate on that and less real estate on desk space, where the writers and the editors maybe don't need to be in the office in such a prescribed way? On the other hand, certainly for me, and I think for most of us, like, the reason that we got into magazine media is because it's a team. Like, you can't write a story without a designer, without an editor, without a researcher, without production leadership. There comes an intimacy among the group of people who produce these things, whether it's for the web, whether it's a video, or whether it's for print, that is kind of part of the joy. And so I think you will always need congregation of some kind.
But isn't congregation 5 days a week, Monday through Friday?
Is that how we're going to live?
Yeah,
I don't know. Right? We've talked about everything from, like, maybe men's health is in, Monday to Wednesday, and women's health is in Wednesday to Friday. Like, could you have looser schedules and all that kind of stuff? I mean, to be honest, many of our brands in digital had already operated that way. And had a much looser schedule. There are whole job descriptions that are loose in that way, right? The market editors for fashion spend 80% of many days out of the office on appointments. So you begin to think about, what is the work that you're doing? What is your need for office space? And then what is your need for community as a part of this enterprise that makes something? One thing I will say, and I think this has been true universally, but the thing that we've seen in March is that our audience numbers have been extraordinary. So, we're incredibly up on.
Just David Kagalu Kalama has a very pertinent question to us about what is resonating within your content topics.
Yes, great. I'm so glad he asked that. So here comes my cat, by the way. I told you my cat might make.
Okay, good. It's authentic.
There he is. Jerry's on the scene.
Jerry.
So what is resonating is, I would say about 16% of the content that we did in March was directly COVID related. So it was about the COVID-19 crisis, about coronavirus specifically. And then in addition to that, there was tons of adjacent content, right? So all the workouts from home and the how to cook from your pantry and all that stuff, that is not in that 16%. We produced in March about 1,000 more stories than we produce in other months. This is an example here. This is our live programming schedule for women's health. So we do, 2 workouts a day across their Instagram feed, right? That is not actually, we're not calling that COVID content. That's just women's health being super relevant right now. One of the things that's been interesting to me is that the things that we always do are still really compelling to people. We've seen newsstand in grocery stores is up 12%. We've seen, I think
newsstands and grocery stores?
Yep.
Really?
Newsstand sales at grocery stores is up. Our Amazon subs are up like 100% year over year. And our digital audience in March was up 30% year over year. So there's this continued desire for all the kinds of content we produce. Including celebrity. The Times did a piece about is there going to be a cancellation of celebrities because they all have it so cushy right now when the rest of us are struggling. But actually, I think people want the familiarity of those people that they know and that they have, they want to see those familiar faces. So across the board, from the kind of service we do to the sort of celeb culture to culture to the sort of newsy stuff around COVID, we've seen a response to all of it.
So one question, I don't actually know the first name, Jacobs J from United Talent, asked what type of
That's Julian. That's my friend.
Julian. Okay, this is the plant. This is the plant of a question. What type of frontline storytelling is Hearst doing?
We've been doing some. We're not in the New York Times, Washington Post business, and even if you look at our closer competitors like The Atlantic or Vox, a lot of what they're doing is the deeper storytelling, but not the day-to-day. We have a big, huge feature coming out. We've partnered with a hospital network and we are embedded in that particular hospital network. And I kind of don't want to give too much away about it because it's going to come out and hopefully it'll be exciting. But so that we could do something truly in depth with the front line of healthcare. There are a couple of other stories around that we probably won't roll out for another couple months, sort of after the height of this is over, because our job in the magazine world is not to necessarily be the daily news, right? If you want to know the infection rate in New York today, go to the Times. You're not coming to Esquire or Good Housekeeping. But if you want to understand sort of the humanity of this, those are the sorts of stories that we're chasing.
Yeah, I wonder about that because every brand needs to be authentic to themselves. I'm using the word authentic all the time and I can't stand it. But they have to be like who they are, right? Like, I mean, and this is upending all of society. So there are angles for everyone in this. But, as much as Steakums is making very good points on Twitter about global health, I think brands do, need to be who they are and stuff. I do wonder about that though. Do you have to tell editors maybe don't mention coronavirus all the time because we can't make money because we're going to get blocked by coronavirus when you're just talking about workouts?
No, we haven't had that conversation at all. Not at all. I mean, I think partly because we aren't talking about coronavirus all the time. Like we are really talking about the things that we think, that are being responsive to sort of seeing where the audience goes. But also, just hasn't been a factor for us financially at the moment.
So we have a question from anonymous attendee. With audiences up, but advertisers perhaps being more conservative with their spend, that is a euphemism.
Yeah.
How is Hearst driving revenue and capitalizing on that increased readership? What are your teams collaborating with advertising partners? I mean, we have heard a lot about subscription bumps in the news category. Are you seeing corresponding bumps?
We're seeing subscription bumps, not at the level that we're seeing. I actually was just on a phone call with the head of newspapers and TV at Hearst, and it was really interesting to hear them talk about their creative teams now, and just like and for newsrooms of all stripes and all categories right now, what a huge inspirational moment this is in terms of engaging with readers, like just the opportunities there. The newspaper team in particular is seeing, I think, a really nice subscription bump from this time, and I think reassuring them that they are in fact needed and providing something of value to their consumers. We're seeing it, as I said, a little bit. We're seeing, digital subs up on Amazon. I'm sure there's more stats around that. That's just the one I got today. Certainly, a forward-looking model wherein the consumer pays a larger share of, the production cost for us is something that we've been thinking about for a long time. We have a couple of digital subscriber models already in market on Esquire, Runners, and Bazaar. I think you'll see us accelerate those efforts now. We also have seen that there are a number of ad categories that are still, I mentioned that Hershey bought the Delish cooking show that are very stable for us. And I think Hearst is lucky because we have such a diverse portfolio of magazines, from luxury to cars to food to family to farm, that we cover a lot of ground. But that will be, I think, the effort for teams like mine. We have been, under Troy's leadership, first in digital and now his favorite thing is agility and adaptability. And so, that's our DNA. And I think you'll see us push into those things even more so. E-commerce was up for us 133% in March versus prior year. Like, there's a lot of ways in which we are out there, connecting with consumers in a way that's meaningful for them and valuable for us.
Yeah, and a lot of this, again, I keep going back to acceleration because the diversification that publishers are seeing, if they didn't have the tracks already in place, it's kind of too late. You can't just make it up right now. Right. That's something I hear again and again. Prerna Khan, actually, on that note, had asked about the Delish content that we saw. Walk us through how that happened. How did Hershey's get involved in that? Was that a pre-existing
They
deal?
literally saw it. They were like, "Ooh, we like what you're doing on Live." And then Dan Fuchs, our extraordinarily enterprising publishing lead on Delish, was like, "Let me talk to you about it." So, I think, the nice thing about Live is that it's a very casual way for people to connect with our brands. I think you said authentic before, but this is the video. Joe's going to love that. That's how we freeze framed her. But Teddy looks great, so it's good.
I know. I actually had an incident, with Zoom, with everyone freezing up because the internet is going.
Yes.
Like Hope Reichard, who was actually on the background in this call, was frozen like while I was making what I thought was a very good point, but she froze at like this look of like, that's the dumbest idea.
And you were like, "Oh, thanks for judging me."
Really bad feedback, but she was just frozen. So we actually didn't view Pierre. If you could go back.
Yeah, go to the girl in the polka dot shirt, because that's a good example. You were talking about celebrity before, and she is an actress who, of course, I can't remember her name, but this series I'm obsessed with. It's from Cosmo. It's called Stir Crazy, and it's celebrities making cocktails out of whatever they can find in their kitchen.
Wow. This is something we can all relate to.
Yeah, totally.
They're just like us.
Totally. I would not drink any of the things they've made though. Like the one of them that I watched, it was like pickle juice and milk. I mean, it was horrifying.
Can we watch this? Let's see what it's like.
Just a little promo for
I'm Heather McNamara. I'm here with Cosmo today to do their Stir Crazy Challenge. Clearly, I like whiskey. Jim Beam, coffee whiskey, Sassenach, some Glenlivet. There's a drink called a whiskey seduction. I think I can make this work. Let's get mixing.
So that's just a little promo for that series. And that's hilarious because they really make garbage and then they have to drink it.
Oh boy.
I mean, I think one of the keys, to be honest, with success on YouTube is being awkward, right? That's what you like about it, like all the weird awkwardness of the real person thing. And so one of the great things about these sort of self-shot at-home videos is that they're incredibly awkward.
Okay. Okay, so we're halfway there with the new normal.
Yeah.
David, I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing your name, David. David Kagula Kalema says, one, tell Kate I'm a fellow Amherst grad.
Oh, hi.
Amherst. And also, can you describe your day-to-day? How do you organize your time, your teams, your communication? I've heard from other sort of leaders of, this need to over communicate. I think in the first few weeks, that's why we timed a story we did today about Zoom fatigue. Not this Zoom.
Yes, no, this Zoom is very engaging.
How do you end up? How's your day-to-day changed?
I mean, mine is very weird because I'm, like a manager. So my day hasn't changed that much to the extent that I'm still fundamentally in meetings and connecting with my team all day.
What's your record for Zooms in a day?
I mean, I think that there was a day when I sat down in my chair at 8 a.m. and I did not get up until 6:30 p.m. And the thing that has been for me so hard is that I, usually when I go from meeting to meeting, I meet with the teams on their floors. So I'm kind of running around the building all day. I'm on Oprah's floor. I'm on House Beautiful's floor. I'm on El Decor. And now I'm just sitting in my chair the whole time. And so for me, I'm like, oh, this is very sedentary.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of my day. I think for the teams, there has been an incredible amount of communication over video conference, but also, to be honest, I think I mentioned before, but that we produced 1,000 extra pieces of content. I think I said this in March than we had in February. So there was a massive amount of industriousness from the team. And partly, I think it's because they're actually in a sort of undistracted situation at home. So I think, for the sort of the writers, editors, those guys are just grinding it out.
Yeah, but how do you manage that with burnout, though, right? I mean, because that's the other half of this. Because I think in the acute phase of this, it was all hands on deck. It was, look, it was different. People are trapped in their apartments, and there's an esprit de corps that happens. But then we're going into week 5.
I know.
And
I think this is the week that we started to see it. That not so much burnout, but the kind of like what you've been calling the new normal, the realization that like we're still at home and we're going to be at home for a few more weeks, couple more months, who knows, and that you have to sort of begin to pace yourself in a way that's less feverish. I'll be curious to see what the story output looks like for April versus March. I suspect it will be lower. But I think also there's, with the burnout, there comes a kind of comfort as well, that people are like, this is how I do it. Like, I now know that I cannot sit in my desk chair from 8 to 6:30. Like, I now have lunch scheduled, every day. And I take 15-minute breaks between, every 3 meetings so I can get up and walk outside or do whatever it is. And I think people are beginning to figure out how to really organize themselves.
Yeah. So final thing is, Sean McNulty mentioned, he noted that we've both escaped New York City, and asked thoughts about what conditions would need to exist for you to return. I mean, the Berkshires looks lovely.
It's very lovely. It's very lovely here.
I don't know why you're not there all the time.
No, me neither. Don't tell anyone.
But in all honesty, how do you deal with that? You've got, I mean, what percentage of your employees, Sean asked, that you're interacting with, ballpark, are still in New York City? Because it is a little different. I mean, I personally, I'm in Pennsylvania. This is not my home. It's my parents' home in suburban Pennsylvania.
So many people are coexisting with their parents now.
I'm 47 years old. I've moved back home. It's great. It's a great feeling. My parents are in Florida, so I'm not.
At least you're squatting, basically.
They're texting me. And my mom texted me yesterday and said, "Did you put the awning in? I saw that there's a storm." So I'm still 17. But how do you deal with that? Because I mean, a lot of people, particularly, we're all in the day to day, but like, they're trapped in different situations in tight apartments, and there's different stress levels, I think.
I mean, personally, as far as the return to work goes, personally, I am very much looking forward to it. And I am perhaps err on the side of foolishness in terms of a desire to be back and to be back with my team. And it was interesting. We recently did a poll again, because we're starting to think about the return to work and what that might look like. And I would say my team was pretty 50-50 split on people who are like, get me back. I need my people. I want to be in the thick of it again. And then other people who are like, I'll just take my time. And I think that the only way for any of us to do that is to respect the feelings of each individual.
Yep.
The Hearst Tower has remained open this whole time. I know of at least one employee who's been going in there because they live super close by. And so I think there will be, some people who will rush back in there, who will rush back as soon as it starts to feel like it's lifted. And then there will be others who weren't. And because we've been able to function like this, we're not going to let it stress us out.
So one other question that came in from Jessica Rylander was, how do you plan even for future content, or do you plan for future content when there is really no visibility about how long this current new normal is going to last? Like, is this a blip? Is it like 10 weeks? Is my Zoom sweater going to become like a Zoom t-shirt?
We are absolutely planning for the future. I mean, you have to, because we got print issues to put out. We're closing, summer issues starting now. And so one of the things that was really important to us was to be able to get photography at the appropriate level for print. And now that we've done that, I think we can begin to move forward. Lots of things happened for us that were a little bit chaotic on the print side in terms of like movies moving, dates and stuff like that. But most of the movie distributors have changed their schedules now. And so they're known to us so that we can plan around that kind of thing. You just have to. I mean, we had, obviously the fall collections happened as this was beginning in late Feb, early March. And so there is some question of how will we get samples to shoot them, et cetera. Will the September issue have all fall or will there still be pre-fall in it? And so we're really working through those things. It feels incredibly important for us to continue to give readers an experience that helps move them forward.
But are you planning for a scenario that this, what we're in right now, we're in through the summer?
100%.
Okay.
I think that we will have, I don't think that on whatever day Trump says, I can't remember if it's May 1st or whatever, that we're all suddenly going to, get back on the New York City subway system and go into the tower. There's no way. And so what we're anticipating is that there'll be, and this does actually help. So Hearst is a global company. And so we have offices in China and Japan and Italy. And so we've been seeing what they've been doing there. And, 5% of the workforce comes back, then they're on phase. People come in mornings, afternoons. So I think we'll have a real structure around who is essential and needs to be in the building and who can, continue to work from home and, those kinds of things and begin to phase it in. So I imagine a lot of that will be happening over the summer, but I don't think it's going to be like, okay, June 1st, everyone's back.
Right. So final question, and then we'll get to your 3 takeaways. But, and this came from an anonymous attendee, maybe someone within Hearst, we don't know.
Okay, good.
And this is the sort of unhappy, maybe, acceleration. Is this going to accelerate the replacement of print with digital propositions? Is there a scenario in which this speeds up, print going away for some brands?
I mean, I believe that print is a critical calling card of our complete audience experience. I think what it accelerates, I love that that's like the word of the day. What it accelerates is the multimedia nature of the content we produce. But I don't foresee us publishing brands that don't have a print component to them consistently. It's too important to what we are. And will the way that we monetize,
it's hard to get into the market, and in certain markets are it's hard to even get the print product to people, right? I would assume.
Not right now. I mean, the mail's running, so while, will we see newsstand change? Yes, yeah. Because I think even when the country reopens, like airports are not going to be the first place that we all go to. So I think the newsstand environment will change a lot. I think subscriptions, though, will still be a big part of how we engage with people. Okay. So I don't think this precipitates the demise of print. It will certainly make us rethink the business model for print from a consumer and advertiser point of view and how that shifts. Okay, so I want to get to the takeaways. What are your 3 takeaways from our conversation? Well, the one thing I would just say in this, and I think you probably know this about me, Brian, but like my motto is enter smiling, and I believe there is, opportunity in everything. And so one thing I think that's been useful for my team and for my org, and this really comes from Troy, is that in this there are opportunities, right? We are growing and we are changing and we are transforming. And so we've really been focused on what are the things that we have learned and how do we capture the good things and then run screaming from the things that have been hard about it, which has primarily been the social isolation of it. Mm-hmm. So, my takeaways from our conversation today would absolutely be about acceleration. I think you nailed that this is a period of us having to face head on the changing media landscape. I think the other thing I would say is that Hearst feels to me uniquely positioned to do so because we have created an org that has been so flexible and adaptable and changeable when people start working at Hearst, they ask me, what are the qualities that I think someone needs to be successful at Hearst? And I say, there are two things. One is blinding ambition, and the other is an openness to change. And I really think that our population embodies that.
It's interesting. This time it's like, this is where the training sort of shows up, right? So
Yes.
if you've been training an organization to be adaptable, if you've been on the road to diversifying your revenue, this is the time to sort of accelerate. If you haven't been doing those things, or if you didn't build an organization and a culture that is around adaptability, it's going to be tough.
It's tough. Yeah. And I think if I were to say like the third sort of takeaway for me from this has been that last piece, the last question that I was asked, which is like, we now live in a multi-platform world. I think anyone who thinks that they are going to produce media in a singular stream is mistaken. And I think you really see that now from everything from Miley becoming a food stylist for her shoot, when she's obviously a trained editor, to, the entire Town and Country team now producing news, across the board, when that was a team we had not integrated before, but they've been extraordinarily productive this past month, participating on all platforms. So I think we're in it.
Got it. But now we're in it. Okay, Kate, I want to thank you so much for being part of this very first edition of the New Normal.
Thank you for letting me be a guinea pig. This was really fun.
It was great to meet Jerry.
Jerry, I'm glad he made an appearance.
And I want to thank you all for tuning into this. We'll be back next week. We're going to be going deep into how to adapt in-person events into digital events. We're going to be doing that with an exec from Politico. We'll have more information on that on the site, and we're going to continue this every week. So tell your friends, tell your family, and thank you again.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. Bye.